Hopefully the fellas can understand the analogy I'm going to use here. You have this girl. You've been fiending for her. You've got the hots for her. She makes you go to the spank bank. You just think about how bad you want her, how bad you want her. And you try to pursue her. You try to go after her. No matter what you do, it just doesn't work. You feel like you've put out a good package, but ultimately can't seal the deal. So you get frustrated. You kind of kick yourself in the rear. You're pissed. You're upset, butthurt. And the spank bag just isn't nearly as pleasurable, but you still do it to her anyways. But then a couple of years later, you bump into her, and you see she's looking a little busted down. Now she's acting like a statistic. She's got a couple of kids. She's with some buster-ass dude. And all of a sudden, you think about it, and you're like, just because I wanted it then didn't mean I really needed it. And ultimately, fate and whatever else intervened and did me a great service, a great favor. You ever had that happen? I know I have. Sometimes just because you think you want it now, when you don't get it, that's not always a bad thing. And I think about this with the Dallas Mavericks and DeAndre Jordan. You remember this whole fiasco a few years ago with them trying to hunt down DeAndre Jordan. They just had the heart on for him. Mark Cuban got a chubby for his black ass. He wanted to sit there and cream pie him with a max contract because for reasons that still are unbeknownst to me. You just had to have a big man, and DeAndre Jordan was available, and we want to pay him a crap ton of money. But ultimately, DeAndre Jordan ducks and dodges and weaves. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin kind of put the last-minute pitch on him. And ultimately, DeAndre Jordan successfully leveraged the Mavericks in order to get the max money he could from the Clippers. Basically, the Mavericks got played, while DeAndre Jordan got paid. And the Mavericks at the time, and certainly Mark Cuban, were pissed off about it. They were frustrated about it. They were upset about it. They were bothered by it. And they missed out on their number one target. Well, let's fast forward a couple of years later. Things haven't exactly been great for the Dallas Mavericks. You got Dennis Smith Jr. in the last draft. He should end up being a really good young player for them in this league for a long time to come. Dirk Nowitzki, the legend, the icon that he is at the very tail end, in the swan song period, truly, of his career. And you've given out bad contracts to players like Wesley Matthews and Chandler Parsons, whoever the fuck else I keep forgetting at this point. Who else? Fucking Harrison Barnes. I mean, just bad business decisions. That's Mark Cuban for you. Just because the dude won a championship and did some other good things in terms of marketing and promotion for the league, doesn't mean when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of running an actual basketball organization that this guy has a real grip on reality. Doesn't mean that this guy is actually very good at what he does, because the reality is when you look at the overall body of work, he really hasn't been. But you look at it for DeAndre Jordan and the Clippers. Blake Griffin's been traded. Chris Paul's been traded. DeAndre Jordan sitting there playing for a middle-of-the-road, mediocre Clippers team. I wouldn't exactly call that a great success. Sure, the dude got paid a lot of money. Not that much more than he would have gotten from Dallas anyways the first time. But in the grand scheme of things, you look at it, the organizations aren't that far apart. So it was one of those things that was only better for DeAndre Jordan because he played on a slightly better team for a year or two, and then he goes back to playing on a non-playoff team, and the Dallas Mavericks were able to be worse, and they missed out on their guy. But now a couple of years later, DeAndre Jordan is opted out of his contract. He's going to hit the open market as an unrestricted free agent. And here are the Dallas Mavericks with cap space, desperately dying to go after DeAndre Jordan again. What in the hell are you doing? Why are you so obsessed with this big man that, yes, great shot blocker, great rebounder, that you really can't play in the fourth quarter because he doesn't do much offensively for you at all other than catch lobs, and he is an absolutely horrendous free throw shooter, meaning he's a massive liability. You could go to a hack of DeAndre if you're the opposing team. So a lot of times you're going to end up with DeAndre Jordan not on the floor in the closing moments of the game when it really matters. And then when you look at the league and the way the league has transitioned into being a wing, perimeter, point guard driven, dominated league, why in the fuck would you want to invest $20+ million into a big man who might not give you very much in the fourth quarter? Look, I realize DeAndre Jordan is a nice player, but he has been a nice player for years on a team that, frankly, paying him a lot of money, hasn't done shit. And no, that is not necessarily the fault of DeAndre Jordan and this and that. But what it does point to is the lack of wisdom of investing that much money into a limited big man. Especially in today's game. 20 years ago, you pay DeAndre Jordan that money every freaking time. I get it. I understand it. Because you still have great centers. You still have great dominant big men in the league. You don't have that anymore. So why would I pay premium pricing for a non-premium position? Shit, you watch the Warriors. Their freaking big men in those situations is 6'7" Draymond Green. And you can point to the Rockets and you can say Clint Capella, but Capella's got just a little bit more skill. He's a more athletic and a slightly more versatile overall defender. And up to this point, the Rockets weren't paying him nearly DeAndre Jordan money. And he's younger and still has more upside. DeAndre Jordan is peaked. He is who the hell he is. And the only thing he's going to do is stagnate and eventually decline. Why the hell would you want to get in on this? Mark Cuban, DeAndre Jordan is the woman you couldn't get 5 or 7 years ago because you really, really wanted her and it really, really hurt you when you just weren't good enough. When all the while you should have realized that she wasn't good enough for you and she wasn't worth it for you. That's who the hell DeAndre Jordan is. Learn from history. Learn from your mistakes. Don't sit there and be so stubborn and so stupid as to sit there and tie a shit ton of money into a guy that's not going to make you a whole lot better. If you're going to be bad, then be bad. Go nuts with it. Don't sit there and pay $20+ million to a limited center so that way you can maybe, with 1 or 2 other moves, become an 8 seed in the Western Conference. Whoopee! This is so silly and foolish. It's like Mark Cuban just can't quit DeAndre Jordan. Mark, quit him. It's okay. If you don't, you'll probably be looking at this as another dumb dick contract that you handed out that brought you absolutely nothing. Give it up. Let it go. Let history be history, the past be the past, and move the fuck on and do something else with your damn money.